I've come up with a way to totally eradicate this whole idea of rejection in sales. If it's over at hello, how the heck are you going to succeed in selling? You've got to rise above that and change your mindset.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Stump The Guru show. It's Ari here. Hope you are well. We have listeners from around the world, viewers watching this every month, listening through the podcast channels. And thank you so much for your feedback so far. I've had some great feedback from folks who've been listening to this almost every episode since we began. So good to be here again. We're focusing on trust-based selling, a different way of thinking about how you approach the market. If you don't know, we launched Ari AI a few months ago, which is basically all of my work, 25 years of all of my materials never made available online ever. It was all kept in private repository, over 17 million words, all in its own advanced AI system and model, where you can literally go in and get live coaching from my AI, which is much smarter than me. We have folks now who are using it for live role playing before a phone call, emails to write to clients, all based on trust. You cannot get access to any of this material on the internet through any public AI system because those systems scan the web, find websites, and find the average. To start with, my materials all privately available and proprietary only through Ari AI. So I'd encourage you to get a complimentary experience, to challenge it, push it, ask your toughest question. I think you'll be impressed. And we announced a promotion this year for those who do take the REI experience. The name will go into a hat, so to speak, into a bowl, and the winner will be getting a trip to Australia to meet with me and have lunch with me at the Opera House, cruise around in my classic car, and we'll have a chat at Bondi Beach about your business. So it's a great opportunity to experience REI. There's no charge at all to do that. Just go to arigalper.ai. It's free. Schedule an experience with one of my team members. They'll walk you through it step by step. You bring your toughest challenges that you can think of, that you can't answer anywhere else in the world. Bring it here and give it a challenge, and you'll see that I think you'll be impressed with the fact that you're going to be using a principle-based expert system that is only privately available here of all my work over 25 years that'll impress the heck out of you. So don't hesitate. Please go to arigalper.ai, schedule an experience. We'll walk you through it. I'll also send you a copy of my new book I just released, and you'll get your name added to the contest, and we'll announce the winner end of the year, and you can win a trip to Australia. It's a great place to live. I've been here for 20 years. Meet me in Sydney. We'll have lunch at the Opera House, cruise around my classic car, and then we're going to have a chat at the beach there. So it's exciting times. Get ahead of the curve, and please give it a try. So we're here back to Stump The Guru show, where every month people come in live and ask me the toughest question. I do have a theme every month, and the theme this time is around the concept of the tendency to overeducate when we meet someone for the first time or our first consultation. And what happens constantly and often is that we as experts, we know our material so well. We want to help the other person. And the minute they describe our problem to us and we ask them a couple questions, we shift into expert mode, and we can't help ourselves but to educate, do free consulting, and help them solve their problem, or at least show them we can solve their problem to prove to them our value. There's something inside of our subconscious that says to us, we have to prove ourselves. We have to show them we can solve their problem. If they can't see that, they're not going to hire us. Well, here's the irony of all this that I discovered over my work over the last couple of decades. Your potential prospects at first don't care about how you solve their problem. What they're first deciding on is, are you the one to solve their problem? That's a meta step, a meta question before the first one. Then they might say to you and indicate to you, I want to know what you do and how you can help me. But what they're really trying to say is, I want to know if I can trust you first. And that comes from shifting from solution-centric thinking to problem-centric thinking, where you're unpacking their issues and doing a deep dive inside their world and staying inside their world to help them see the costs of what the impact of not solving their problem is, and then ultimately waiting till they ask you this final question: how can you help me? So they will hire you just on the mere fact that you're the only person who has the most clarity on their issue, so much clarity that they already assume that you could help them solve their problem. So you don't have to feel a need to convince or over-educate them. As long as you have a roadmap to onboard them around your process from that point forward, you'll be fine. So you have permission to not educate and stop selling as much as possible. So we're back with the show, and we'll see who's going to come in live. Steve, good to see you there. All right, can you see me or hear me?
Hey, I don't know what happened. It put me on live. Yeah, my internet's dead. I'm going to bring Robert on first. My internet is dying. I'm on my phone. It logged me in randomly. So let's bring on Robert, and I will log myself the map experience. All right, here's
great. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Good, Ari. How are you?
Good. Maybe share with the audience what you do, and then what your question might be.
Sure. So I'm a financial advisor who focuses primarily in the area of taxation. Listening to you for a while, we've chatted, I've read your books, and you're always saying don't sell the future. But here's the problem I'm experiencing.
Sure.
My clients have to have liquid assets of at least $2 million for me to work with them. And today, they're totally oblivious to the past, to the problems, and they don't see anything wrong today. And granted, they shouldn't. The stock market's been booming since 2009. Life's been good. They're getting chubby and comfortable. But certainly the dangers lurking. I mean, a market correction or war with Iran or whatever. And for many of these people, they've only been millionaires the last 5-6 years, not because they're smart, but because the stock market's done well. And it's I'm having a struggle finding pain because they don't see anything wrong. So with taxes, it helps a little bit because they understand the impact of taxes, but I'm stuck. And what ends up happening is then I start going into the education mode because they don't see a problem.
Well, is there a problem?
Today, no, a tax problem in the future, but not today. Their money's in IRA, so they're not withdrawing it. So they don't have much tax liability. But
they will in the future if they don't, you can help them, right?
Oh, the tax time bomb is coming. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, so that is a now problem then. What you're missing, I think, Robert, is the languaging to move them to that space. So you can begin to use phrases like this. Have you considered the fact that within the next 5 to 10 years, you'll be paying X more in taxes than you are paying now? Are you aware of that? You can still land it from the beginning to now, because you can maybe ask them, what are you paying annually for taxes now? Would you say an estimate? How much are you paying? The guy says you $20K. Okay, are you aware that you'll be held accountable for $50K in 5 years from now and going from there unless you protect that and mitigate that in the future? Are you aware of that?
Okay, that's what's missing.
Not really. Here's another phrase for you, Robert. Have you considered the fact that once you cross a certain threshold in your age, your tax threshold changes, and if you don't protect that, notice how I'm saying, have you thought about, have you considered, are you aware? Those are your 3 key phrases to use to move them from the now to the future.
Okay, that's where I was missing.
Yeah, it's that one gap, because if you go to the future, you're right. If they don't see a problem now and you go to the future too quickly, then they can't bridge both together. So you need to make that bridge. I think the languaging is probably what you're missing. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
All right. Very good. Excellent. Thanks, Ari. I appreciate it.
Good to see you. No problem.
Be well. Bye-bye.
You too. Take care. All right. We're here back at the Stump The Guru show. We are live. We have folks around the world calling in to ask questions. Our theme today is about being careful not to overeducate. Robert made a very good point, because we have a tendency to often sell the future. We try and take people to another place where they're not in right now. And there has to be a bridge. You have to have a way for them to connect the present time to the future to make that leap. And that languaging hopefully should help Robert and those listening to in that spot to help you as well. So, Steve, who else would we have back there for today?
All right, let's pray my internet holds. The next 30 seconds. I'm going to bring on Greg. Hey, Greg, how are you? If you can let everybody know a little bit about you and your question for Ari, please.
Steve, hi, Ari, how are you? Good to see you.
Okay, Greg, how are you?
My name's Greg. I'm Sydney-based as well. I have been, for the last few decades, consulting primarily large organizations, very large organizations, on behavioral change with a focus on leadership and the impact that leadership can have on driving, changing, sustaining, improving performance of teams and everyone downstream from a leader. And in the last few years, as I thought I would slow down, I've found that I've rekindled my interest in smaller organizations and taking all of the things we've been doing for corporates to smaller businesses, and in fact, right down to trades-based businesses, because the fundamentals of leadership impacting everything that happens in a business are consistent. There's virtually no issue in a business or in professional services that can't be positively impacted by more effective leadership. If your salespeople aren't selling well, let's look at the sales manager. If your customer service people aren't engaging the customers, doing the right thing, let's look at the team leader. And it's just a straight line from the top all the way through to frontline deliverables. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm very interested in this concept, you know, the focus of today of overeducating, because I'm a talker and it's what I tend to do. And I'm very aware of not jumping to solution mode too early. However, that connection, and it's not dissimilar to Robert's situation of people not making a connection between issues, current and future issues, and my solutions.
So I think in your case, because you're still in the now, I think what you're saying is people you're talking to aren't seeing the impact of the problem itself. What's it costing them? How it's originating, or you tell me, is that different in your mind?
Look, it's a little different. Every business has either a problem or an issue, or at least an opportunity for improvement.
Correct.
However, they rarely, at the beginning of my connection with it, rarely link leadership to the solution. If they have a sales or a revenue problem, they focus on the salespeople, understandably and correctly, without recognizing that really, if they start to look at their own behaviors,
I see,
they can have a more direct impact on it. So and I know that as soon as I get them in a room, or as soon as we begin a program or a talk or a workshop, it takes very little time for the light bulb to go on and think, gosh, I can understand now the impact I have. But demonstrating that value.
It's not the value itself. It's unraveling the problem they can't see. That's what it's about. You don't have to deliver the value. So what you might need some languaging that might say, is it possible that the manager himself could be not as effective as he should be to help improve the team's performance? Is that possible? I think you have to open up their mind to another mindset, because you convincing them, you offering them something, they won't get it. You have to say phrases like, is it possible? Have you considered the fact that oftentimes leadership is focused on other goals? Have you had any feedback from your team that their manager is not as effective as they should be? These are questions you have to ask them, because this is live data that they would know about inside their business. And then they can bring it up to you and then drive it from there. Because then you can say, it's in a way you can say, look, it's common to often not take into account that the management level of the organization could be impacting your bottom line, not just the workers themselves. Have you considered that before? Now, Greg, you're very much in a business of mindset shifting. You got to change your thinking from, like you said, here to here. Have you considered the idea of creating a mini targeted book that shared your concept that they get in their hand prior to meeting with you, so that mindset shift's already taken care of before the meeting?
Yeah, you mean like this?
Got it. Now, is every single person you're meeting with getting that in their hands before you meet with them?
No, many do, but no, not as a firm process. I think that's a very good point.
That's the problem. The problem is there's too much heavy lifting going on that first meeting where you have to educate. But you want them to make that shift first to realize, oh, leadership's the problem. So if I were you, I'd make it a permanent process that you will not speak to anybody unless they have that book in their hands before your meeting.
I think that's a really good point, because I'm very happy to give the book to them. Harry, the thing that I like, I mean, you're quite right, and as with most things, it's really simple, but we don't deal with the simple often enough. But I think some of that language that you use there in those questions, I do incorporate in my interactions, but I think they really need to be headlines, and they need to be marketing headlines. They need to be, I did plenty of socials around specific issues, but I think these need to be some headlines. I'm going to be trying these very
Absolutely.
quickly.
In fact, you should test REAI with this, because REAI can give you 25 headlines around this problem immediately and write the post for you without you writing at all.
Having my REAI demos been on my list, I'll put it to the top of the list now.
I would do that. Now, if you win the trip, of course, you can fly to we can see each other here.
Well, it'll be a cheap deliverable for you.
Yeah, there you go. But I would recommend that doing that, and then all the language is already built into the system. You can say this: I'm a leadership coach. I need to have 5 headlines written to attract business owners to me, for them to recognize that the leadership is the driver of the problem, less tactical. And you just give it like a mission brief. It'll give you everything right there and then from a trust perspective. And that could be your output.
Terrific. Thank you.
Awesome.
Very soon.
All right. Good to see you, Greg. Thank you so much for coming. All right. What a great show so far. Interesting guests and questions. You can see there's a theme going on here where there's almost like a sticking point where you meet with someone and there's like this almost pressure to educate them, to help them see their own problem. And a lot of folks get stuck with how to navigate those moments. There's a certain nuance to it, and it's all about trust-based languaging. And I've spent 25 years mastering this, and of course REI's got all that in there, and it can customize it to you in real time. But you can see how it gets kind of messy if you don't have that connection with people for them to start to think differently, because most people who are offering a solution need to shift the thinking of the prospect they're talking to, not educate them. Got to help them see things they can't see on their own by gently navigating them to a place that's new for them. And that's not about offering the solution. It's about helping them see the gap they can't see on their own. And that impresses people when you're helping them see things they can't see from their own context. So hopefully that gives you some help with that. So Steve, I think we may have one more person back there, right? I think, is it Sam? He is.
Click the wrong one. Yep, it's Sam. So Sam's here. Sam, I brought you in quick and dirty, but it's all right. You're in here.
That's all right.
All right. So you probably all know Sam, my business partner, and we kind of riff off topics for our last few minutes of the show. If we have another guest today, and there's a theme obviously today around overeducating and this need to sort of like not flex but prove ourselves, to show them we know what we're talking about. What's your thoughts on that, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the whole beating of the chest, I think it's part of our makeup and our psychology and what we've been conditioned over years and years is to prove ourselves, show them that we are the right person, and show them, even worse, why we're better than the next person. This is why you should pick me, right? It's very dominant, Ari,
Well, I think it comes from also we're passionate about helping people.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, all of us know our stuff. And what happens is we meet somebody and they're like our ideal client. And they have the problem that we know we can help them solve, and we can see the problem. And our instinct is like, grabbing their neck and going, can't you see I can help you? I do this every single day. Can't you see it? And we get frustrated. And we try and show them that we know our stuff. But the irony of all this is they have to discover it through a journey with you.
Yeah.
You can't front load your process with your solution. You have to front load the process with your the problem you help them solve. And they have to see the full picture of it for them to absorb it, admit it, and own it. If they don't own their own problem, they sure as heck aren't going to want to fix it with you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And this comes down to something you just reminded me, is, behaviors. I mean, like I've lost track of how many people in the past, mentors have always said, maintain enthusiasm, be excited about what you do, be excited about your product, show the prospect that you are enthusiastic and you have belief in your product, make sure they sense that. And of course, that might have worked a long time ago, but that now just oozes sales speak. And what, people get that enthusiasm and all of a sudden their voice starts to increase, their pace, and all of a sudden they're on a roll and like they've lost the prospect because the prospect's still way back here thinking, do I trust you at all? You're coming across like you got commission breath now.
Well, look, if you meet someone that's over enthusiastic, and most people we work with aren't over enthusiastic, they're pretty calm people, but it's very subtle pickup. If they sense that you're, and I thought about this last night, the need for speed. What I mean by that is we have a sense that we have to move them down a path quickly, momentum, and we want to move them to a next step. And when you move somebody to a next step before they really own their own problem and the gap itself, you lose them right there. Yeah. And they'll be nice to you. You'll speak with them, but they will say to you at the end of the conversation this almost every time. I like to think about it. I'll get back to you. That's code for I'm not seeing the problem in my mind clear enough to justify solving it. Now, it's not about just solving it with you. It's about solving the problem itself. Now, that's a very clear distinction, by the way. I mentioned this to a client yesterday. I said, the decision they have to make after meeting with you is not, do they want to hire you? It's, do they want to solve their problem or not? Once you get that in your mind, and you're out of the picture for a minute, and you just work with them to get them to the point where they really want to own it, and you can say to them, look, is this a priority for you to address once and for all? Because clearly it's impacting your business. It's costing you money. You're going home at night stressed out. But you have to tell me if this is something you seriously want to address. Because if you don't, then I just can't help you. So I spend a lot of time with my clients and even myself with the new prospect saying, look, I'm not going to take you on or even provide you with any advice unless you are 100% in on committing to this, to addressing this. And for them, it's kind of odd. They're not used to someone who has a solution saying to them, do you want to work on this? Because the typical sales process is find a prospect, get them qualified, identify their problem, and boom, off to the races. Show them what you can do, case studies, you got an amazing program, you have a framework, you have a model, right? And then you've lost them. It's counterintuitive, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the therapist's worst patient is someone who doesn't want to admit they got a problem. You're going to be in for a really hard time, right?
Yeah, that's like my dad was a psychologist. He used to always tell me that the best patients who went through therapy are the ones who admit their problem and ask for help. Yeah. So, very much our process, we teach how to get to the point of what I call vulnerability, where the other person feels comfortable saying to you these words, how can you help me? Yeah. That requires immense patience to wait for that moment, because our instinct is to create momentum, to move them to the solution as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing too that just triggered a thought, coming back to sort of old traditional sort of mentoring, is that we've always been taught this concept of take control of the conversation, control it, make sure they don't control it. And by control it mean make sure that you got your agenda, your path, your process, you're bringing them down that. And of course, as you've been teaching, that's the wrong thing to do. And sometimes what happens is that there is a little bit of a break in the traffic. You're getting someone some time to think, and you immediately want to jump in. You think, oh, I'm losing control here. I've got to grab it again.
I think there's a difference between control and process. Okay. So you need to have a process in your mind of where to go once they're ready for a next step.
Yeah.
Right. But you can't drive them down a path that you want for them to take until they're ready. And that's the difference. That's why we always talk about the idea of creating space between each step of the process, right? So, for instance, before you show them your roadmap, you want to ask permission. Would it be okay if I walk you through my process for how you work from here? Would that be okay with you?
Yeah.
After you do that, then you say, where should we go from here? So you're always creating space to allow them to walk into the next step, not you saying, great, let's get this thing started. Let me show you, right? Because we want to move things, the need for speed. We want to move things really quickly because we don't want to lose what we think we have.
Well, that's the other thing. We're told to assume the sale. don't think of anything else other than it's going to happen. So your language to be assuming the sale, you're taking them on that path. It's the same thing. And all these behaviors, Ari, it's just, people are onto it now. They know that that's the gig. So the path is wide open for someone to actually just get rid of that thinking and become more human, become more empathetic, and take the time to understand where people are at. And as you said, let them see the problem they can't see themselves. And I think when you do that, people, they breathe a bit of fresh air and they think, man, this guy really gets me. He genuinely wants to understand my world. He's actually brought out some things, or he or she have brought out some things to my attention that I did not be aware of. I respect this person. He didn't try to sell me anything.
Yeah. I think the big picture here is we need to humanize how we approach people. We have to stop selling altogether. And we have to understand the world is shifting right now, becoming much more mechanical, detached, artificial, and less human in the way people connect with people. And I think the key is if you can build that trust consciously and have the right languaging and a model to follow, they will follow you because they can see you're not using any behaviors that they're used to from somebody else. And I think what this comes down to is if you're going to be commoditized, if you don't differentiate not your solution, but differentiate your approach, because ultimately they're going to hire you on your approach itself, not the value of your solution. That's so hard to get because we live inside of our world, of our products. So we think, hey, I have an amazing solution. You're going to love it. But they're not going to hire you off of that because they heard that 100 times from someone else.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Ari. At the end of the day, it's your approach, how they feel about how you approach them and your engagement. It's almost like they've just ignored the words. They ignored your credibility. They get that. You obviously do what you do. You got credentials, you got degrees, all that sort of stuff. But how you make them feel and your approach is all they're judging you on. That's all they've got. They can't do it afterwards. It's impossible, right? Because
Correct.
they can't do it prior to it because they can only judge you after they got their services. So the only thing remaining is your approach.
You know what's going through their mind the whole time when you meet with someone? They're saying to themselves, can I trust him? Can I trust him? Can I trust him? They're not processing information. Their instincts saying, can I trust this person? So hopefully, thank you, Sam, by the way, for coming on today. Hopefully, all of you are hearing this conversation. You're seeing the theme, the threads here, and you're realizing that if you don't upskill yourself right now on how to get more effective at trust building in your sales process, you're going to be in trouble because the world's going on right now with commoditization. It's getting tougher and tougher to win the game, and we're all being shopped, right? So I'd encourage you to, if you haven't yet experienced RAI, to do a demo with the team, bring your toughest challenges, and see if you can get massive insights from this thing I created that's really phenomenal. It's changing lives right now as we speak, and also you get a chance to win a ticket to fly to see me in Australia next year. So there's incentive there to do that, and we'll mail my book also as a gift and as a thank you. So just go to arigalper.ai for that. And thank you for attending today. Thank you, Sam, and all the guests. And hopefully we'll be here next month again. Talk to y'all later. Signing off.
I've come up with a way to totally eradicate this whole idea of rejection in sales. If it's over at hello, how the heck are you going to succeed in selling? You've got to rise above that and change your mindset.